He never expected that a rainy night and a simple act of kindness would bring a powerful CEO into his tiny apartment, change his life forever. Evan Morales had been up since dawn, as usual, juggling the life of a single father while trying to keep his small world from falling apart. Every morning, he woke to the sound of his alarm, tired before the day even began, but he never let it show. His daughter Lily was 8 years old and full of energy, laughter, and questions that never seemed to end. She was the brightest part of his life, but she also made his days longer and more complicated. Evan loved her deeply, more than anything, and he worked hard to make sure she never felt like she was missing out on the life other kids had. But being a single parent was exhausting. There were bills to pay, groceries to buy, and a never-ending list of chores that seemed to grow by the hour. Evan worked 2 jobs. During the day, he repaired small appliances for neighbors and friends in the neighborhood, fixing broken toasters, washing machines, and sometimes even helping with cars when he could. He knew he wasn't a mechanic by training, but he had a knack for figuring out how things worked. In the evenings, he worked at a local diner, waiting tables and cleaning up after customers until late at night. Most people would complain about the lack of sleep or the endless stress, but Evan accepted it as part of life. He had to. There was no one else to provide for Lily, and he promised himself he would never let her go without. That particular night, the rain was coming down hard, slamming against the windows of his small apartment like someone was trying to make it inside. The wind rattled the shutters, and the streets outside were slick and empty, except for the occasional car splashing through puddles. Evan had just finished his shift at the diner and was walking home with his backpack slung over one shoulder. He kept an eye on the road, hoping he wouldn't get soaked, when he noticed a car parked awkwardly at the corner. Headlights dimmed, windshield wipers struggling against the downpour. There was a woman inside, shivering and looking confused. Evan's instinct to help kicked in immediately. He approached her car, knocking lightly on the window. The woman looked startled but relieved when she saw him. Her name, she said, was Miranda, and her car had broken down. She didn't know anyone in the city, and the rain was making everything worse. Evan offered her a ride home, or at least to wait somewhere safe. She hesitated, obviously embarrassed, but he insisted. He didn't think twice about it. It was the right thing to do. She finally agreed, and Evan helped her push the car to the side of the road and into a safer spot. By the time they got inside his apartment building, both were soaked. Evan grabbed an old towel and handed it to her, showing her the couch where she could sit and dry off. Lily, curious and wide-eyed, peeked from the bedroom doorway, asking who the visitor was. Evan whispered a quick introduction and promised Lily they'd make sure the woman was comfortable until the rain stopped. Miranda sat quietly, wrapped in the towel, while Evan went to the kitchen to prepare a quick cup of tea, hoping it might warm her up. Evan's exhaustion was catching up with him. He had barely eaten dinner, his muscles ached from the day's work, and he still had to help Lily with her homework after all this. As he stirred the tea and glanced at the storm raging outside, he realized just how tired he was. His eyes felt heavy, and the warmth from the kitchen, combined with the sound of the rain, made him feel like he could fall asleep standing up. He handed Miranda the tea, and she smiled politely, thanking him softly. For a moment, there was a quiet peace in the small apartment, a tiny bubble of calm in the middle of a storm. But Evan's body had reached its limit. Without thinking, he sank onto the couch, the fatigue pressing down on him so hard he could barely move. Lily was already curled up in her blanket on the small sofa chair, eyes heavy with sleep. Evan's eyelids fluttered, and within seconds, he was asleep. The stress of the day melting away, unaware that the night was about to take an unexpected turn. Miranda, sitting quietly, noticed the small apartment. How little it was, but how full of care. There were little signs everywhere, Lily's drawings taped to the walls, half-finished homework on the kitchen table, a small stack of books in the corner. Even though Evan was asleep, she could see the love and effort he poured into his daughter's life. She couldn't imagine how exhausting it must be to carry all of that responsibility alone, yet he did it without complaint. She felt a mix of admiration and curiosity. Who was this man who, despite everything, still showed kindness to a complete stranger in the middle of a storm? Hours passed, the storm outside slowly easing into a drizzle. Evan didn't stir. He was completely drained. He didn't hear Miranda quietly rise, still wrapped in the towel, or the way she moved around to find a dry place to sit. All he knew was the weight of sleep pressing on him, the comfort of knowing Lily was safe, in the sense that, even in the chaos of his life, he had done the right thing. By the time the first light of morning began filtering through the rain-streaked windows, Evan was still on the couch, oblivious to the surprise waiting for him as the day would start in a way he never expected. The storm had passed, but the events of that night were far from over. Evan stirred slowly, his body heavy with sleep, his mind still foggy from exhaustion. The storm from last night had quieted, leaving only the soft patter of rain dripping from the roof and the occasional distant rumble of thunder. For a moment he didn't open his eyes, enjoying the rare comfort of a few more minutes in the couch cushions. Then the smell of something unfamiliar reached him, warm, sweet, strong. Coffee. Someone was making coffee in his tiny kitchen. He blinked, pushing himself upright, rubbing his eyes. The apartment was unusually quiet, except for the soft clink of a mug on the counter. And then he saw her. Standing there, in the middle of his small kitchen, was a woman. But it wasn't just any woman, it was Miranda Hale. The same woman he had helped the night before. The one whose car had broken down in the storm. His heart skipped a beat, and he froze, unsure what to do or say. His eyes traveled down, and he noticed something that made him feel even more confused and awkward. She was wearing his shirt, the one he had tossed on the chair after taking it off the night before. It hung loosely on her, the sleeves rolled up a little, and he realized it was his favorite shirt, worn and comfortable. "Hi," he finally said, his voice sounding rough and small, even to his own ears. "Good morning," she replied calmly, holding the coffee mug in both hands. Her eyes were gentle, but there was a hint of amusement in them. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." Evan's brain was working overtime, trying to process the situation. How had she gotten inside? Why was she wearing his clothes? And most importantly, why was she standing there, as if it were completely normal? I mean, you're wearing my shirt," he stammered. Pointing vaguely at the fabric hanging on her frame, Miranda smiled, a small, polite smile that seemed completely at odds with the chaos it caused in his mind. "You insisted I wait inside when it was raining so hard," she said. "You left me here to get comfortable while you fell asleep." She nodded toward the couch, where he had indeed collapsed without thinking. "I didn't want to leave in the wet, and your couch seemed the safest spot." Evan felt his cheeks warm. I guess I was tired. Really tired." "Sorry, I didn't think it's fine," she interrupted, her tone soft and calm, almost soothing. "Honestly, you didn't do anything wrong. I appreciate your help." There was something in her voice that made Evan pause. It wasn't just politeness. It carried sincerity. It carried gratitude. And maybe, just maybe, it carried a sense of understanding he hadn't expected from a stranger. He nodded slowly, still unsure how to navigate this very strange morning. Lily, who had been quietly watching from the bedroom doorway, finally stepped into the kitchen. Her eyes went wide as she saw the guest. "Dad," she whispered, a little confused. "This is, Miranda," Evan said quickly, crouching down to Lily's level. "She got stuck outside in the storm last night, and I helped her." Miranda knelt down to Lily's level, smiling warmly. "Hi, Lily. You have a really nice dad. He made sure I was safe last night when the rain was so heavy." Lily's frown faded, replaced by curiosity and excitement. "You stayed here all night?" she asked, pointing to Evan, who was still rubbing his eyes. Miranda nodded. "I did. He made me comfortable. I'm really grateful for that." Evan cleared his throat, still flustered, and ran a hand through his hair. "Yeah. I just didn't expect anyone to end up here wearing my shirt this morning." Miranda laughed softly, a sound that was both gentle and surprisingly light. "Well, it's warm and comfortable. I didn't mean to startle you." Evan tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. He felt a mixture of embarrassment, confusion, and a strange kind of fascination. Here was a stranger in his home, someone he had never expected to meet again. And now she was standing there, calm and composed, wearing his clothes as if nothing unusual had happened. "A coffee," he offered, gesturing awkwardly toward the mug she was holding. "No, thank you," she replied. "I already made some for myself." She sipped it carefully, her eyes scanning the small apartment with curiosity. She noticed the little things, Lily's drawings on the wall, the neatly stacked books on the counter, the way Evan had set up the small living space so efficiently. She seemed genuinely interested, and that caught Evan off guard. Usually strangers barely noticed his humble home, but she seemed to see it with a sense of respect. For a moment there was silence, filled only by the soft sound of rain dripping outside and Lily's quiet breathing. Evan felt awkward, unsure how to fill the space with conversation. Then Miranda spoke again. "You know," she said, her voice soft, "not many people would have stopped to help me last night. Especially with the rain pouring down like that." Evan shrugged, trying to play it cool, but he felt his heart beat faster. "I guess. I just do what I think is right. You looked like you needed help." Her gaze softened, and she smiled. "It's rare to meet someone like you. Someone who doesn't just see a problem and walk away." The words sank in, leaving Evan speechless for a moment. He wasn't used to receiving compliments, especially not from strangers, certainly not under such unusual circumstances. He nodded, feeling both proud and self-conscious at the same time. Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Dad, she's nice," she whispered. "I know." "Kiddo," Evan replied quietly, still processing the morning's events. "She's very nice." As the rain outside began to ease further, Evan realized that this encounter was far from ordinary. A stranger had walked into his life during a stormy night, and now, in the calm of morning, she was standing in his kitchen wearing his clothes, sipping coffee, and speaking with a sincerity that left him unsure how to respond. He didn't know what the day would bring, but for the first time in a long while, Evan felt a strange mix of curiosity and anticipation. Something about Miranda's presence suggested that this meeting wasn't just a random coincidence. Something about the way she looked at him and Lily made him wonder if their lives might be about to change in ways he hadn't imagined. Evan was still trying to catch his breath from the strange, surreal morning. Miranda had finished her coffee and was sitting comfortably on his couch, the oversized shirt hanging loosely on her. For a moment, Evan just stared at her, unsure if he should ask her to leave or try to understand what was happening. He had never met anyone like her before, someone so calm, so confident, and yet so unassuming. There was something in her presence that made him both nervous and curious, a combination he didn't fully understand. Finally, he broke the silence. "So, you're staying here until the rain stops?" His voice was cautious, trying to sound casual, but failing miserably. Miranda shook her head. "No, I'm not here because of the rain anymore. I wanted to talk." Her tone was calm, but there was a depth to her words that caught Evan off guard. "Last night, when you helped me, I realized something I hadn't thought about in a long time. People don't usually help strangers anymore, and you did. That made me want to know more about you." Evan blinked. He didn't know what to say. Usually strangers thanked him politely and left. Rarely did anyone stay, let alone sit in his apartment hours after a storm. Well, I just did what anyone would do, I guess," he said, scratching the back of his neck. He felt awkward under her gaze, which wasn't critical, but thoughtful, as if she were analyzing him. Not in a judgmental way, but in a curious, almost fascinated way. Miranda leaned back slightly, looking around the apartment. "You know," she said, "most people don't see the world like you do. They're so focused on their own problems, their own busy lives, that they forget about the small things. But you notice. You act." Evan felt a flush rise to his cheeks. Compliments weren't something he received often, and hearing them from someone like Miranda, stranger, yet somehow not, felt strange and thrilling at the same time. "Well, I guess life's hard enough. If I can make it a little easier for someone else, I try to," he said softly. Then, the conversation took a turn that Evan hadn't expected. Miranda paused for a moment, her gaze shifting to Lily, who had been quietly drawing on a piece of paper at the kitchen table. "Your daughter," she said carefully. "She's very bright. She seems happy. But I can tell you work hard to make sure she stays that way." Evan's heart tightened. He looked at Lily, who smiled up at him without realizing the weight of Miranda's words. "Yeah," he admitted, his voice a little rough. "I try my best. It's not always easy, but she's worth it." Miranda nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. "I can see that. Most people would be overwhelmed, but you handle it well." "It's admirable." The words, so genuine and unexpected, left Evan momentarily speechless. He had spent years focusing on survival, on making sure bills were paid, meals were on the table, and Lily felt loved. Recognition for his efforts had been rare, and hearing it now, from someone who seemed to understand, felt both comforting and unnerving. Then, out of nowhere, Miranda added something that made Evan's jaw drop. "Do you know who I am?" she asked, her tone light but deliberate. Evan's brow furrowed. I don't. I mean, I know you were stuck in the storm last night." "But," Miranda smiled faintly, almost mischievously. "I'm the CEO of Hale Dynamics." Evan froze. His mind raced, trying to comprehend the information. Hale Dynamics? The city's most influential tech company? The one that always made headlines for its innovations and high-profile executives? His brain scrambled, trying to match the calm, approachable woman sitting in his couch with the powerful, renowned CEO he had seen in newspapers and online articles. You're the CEO?" he stammered. Miranda laughed softly, not in arrogance, but in a way that was entirely disarming. "Yes, I know it's surprising. Most people wouldn't expect the CEO of a major company to end up in a stranger's apartment wearing their shirt." She tilted her head, studying him carefully. "But I wasn't in the mood for appearances last night. I was exhausted, frustrated, and frankly a little lost." Evan swallowed hard, still processing. He had helped her as if she were any other person, never realizing the significance of who she actually was. And now, knowing her identity, he felt a strange mix of pride, awe, and disbelief. He had unknowingly helped someone incredibly important, yet she hadn't treated him any differently. That humility, that genuine demeanor, struck him more than anything else could. Miranda continued, her voice softer now, almost reflective. "I've spent years in boardrooms making decisions that affect thousands of people. I deal with investors, employees, and the constant pressure to succeed. But last night, it was just me. Just a human being caught in a storm needing help. And you reminded me that kindness still exists, that not everyone is only looking out for themselves." Evan found himself listening intently, drawn in by her words. He had always believed in helping others, but hearing it framed this way, from someone whose life was so different from his own, made him realize the impact of small acts. I'm glad I could help," he said quietly. Miranda's gaze softened further. "You did more than help me. You gave me a moment of peace, a moment of trust, in a world that rarely allows it. That means more than you might realize." For a while, the three of them sat in silence, the apartment filled with an almost tangible sense of calm. Lily, sensing the weight of the moment, quietly returned to her drawing. Evan, still trying to process everything, felt a strange mix of emotions: pride for his actions, amazement at the coincidence, and a growing curiosity about what this encounter could mean for the future. Finally, Miranda shifted slightly, her tone changing to something lighter, but no less serious. "You know, Evan, not many people get a second chance to connect with someone who might change their life. I think last night, maybe this was one of those moments. Maybe it's not just about the storm or the shirt or even the coffee. Maybe it's about the fact that we met. And sometimes, meeting the right person at the right time can change everything." Evan felt a shiver run down his spine. Her words weren't just flattery. They felt prophetic, like a doorway opening to something entirely new and unexpected. He realized that the stormy night, the random breakdown, and the chance encounter weren't coincidences. Somehow they were part of a story that was only beginning to unfold. And in that quiet, sun-dappled morning, with the remnants of rain still dripping outside, Evan looked at Miranda and knew, deep down, that his life and Lily's life was about to change in ways he could not yet imagine. Evan sat on the couch, still trying to wrap his mind around what Miranda had just revealed. She was the CEO of Hale Dynamics, the same woman who had casually walked into his tiny apartment wearing his shirt. The same woman whose car he had helped in the pouring rain. He felt a strange mix of awe and disbelief. He had spent his life focused on survival, on making ends meet for Lily, never imagining that someone like her would be standing in his living room, talking to him like he was an equal. Miranda, sensing his shock, leaned forward slightly, resting her elbows on her knees. "Evan, I hope I'm not making you uncomfortable," she said softly. I wanted to be honest about who I am, and I wanted you to know that last night wasn't just a random moment for me. It meant something." Evan shook his head, still struggling to find words. I don't know what to say," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I never expected. I mean, you're important. I'm just me, a guy trying to keep his daughter happy." Miranda smiled warmly. "Exactly. You're just you, and that's what matters. I've spent years meeting people who try to impress me with titles, money, or connections. But you," she paused, looking at him intently, "you did something real. Something kind, and that's rare." Evan's heart thumped loudly in his chest. He wasn't used to praise, especially from someone so significant. He wanted to say something clever, something impressive, but all he could manage was a quiet thanks. Miranda nodded and glanced at Lily, who was quietly drawing at the kitchen table. "Your daughter is amazing," she said. "She seems happy and loved. But I can tell you worry about her a lot," Evan sighed. "Every day. I try to make sure she doesn't feel like she's missing out. But it's hard sometimes. Money's tight, and I'm always tired. I want her to have a good life." Miranda's expression softened. She leaned back, studying him carefully. "You know, Evan, I can help. Not just in a handout way, but in a way that could change both your lives." Evan blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean a real opportunity," she said. "I saw how you handled the situation with my car last night. Your quick thinking, your skills, your calmness under pressure, it's impressive. I want you to come work with me at Hale Dynamics." Evan's jaw dropped. "Work with you? Here?" "Yes," Miranda said, nodding. "I need someone I can trust, someone honest and capable, to help with the company's facilities division. You've proven you're good with your hands. You solve problems, and you don't shy away from responsibility. I think you'd be perfect." Evan's mind raced. He had never dreamed of working at a company like Hale Dynamics. He had never considered himself the kind of person a CEO would hire. And yet here she was, offering him a chance he couldn't ignore. But pride and fear wrestled inside him. "I don't know," he said finally. "I mean, I've got experience fixing things, but I don't have a degree or anything. Miranda shook her head. "That doesn't matter here. What matters is your skill, your reliability, your integrity. I saw that last night, and I want you to bring that to my company. I want you to have a chance to build something stable for you and your daughter." Evan felt a lump in his throat. The weight of responsibility he carried every day, the constant worry about money, about bills, about providing a safe and happy life for Lily, suddenly felt lighter. Someone believed in him. Someone important. And not in a pitying way, but in a way that recognized his value. Lily, sensing the seriousness of the conversation, looked up from her drawing. "Dad?" she asked quietly. Evan looked at her, then back at Miranda. It's a big opportunity," he said, struggling to contain his emotions. I don't know if I'm ready for something like that." Miranda smiled gently. "You don't have to decide right now. I just wanted you to know it's there. I believe in you, Evan, and I want to give you a chance to believe in yourself, too." The room was quiet for a moment, the soft light from the window illuminating the small apartment. Evan's mind was spinning. He thought about the late nights, the constant juggling of jobs, the worry about bills, and the sleepless nights he had endured for Lily. And now, here was a chance to change everything. A chance to build a future where he didn't have to stretch himself so thin, where Lily could have more than just the basics. I need to think about it," he said finally, his voice quieter than usual. It's a lot." I understand, Miranda said, standing up and adjusting the shirt she was wearing. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. Just know that the offer is real, and it comes from a place of respect and belief in you. Evan nodded, still overwhelmed. As Miranda moved toward the door to leave, Lily ran up and hugged her. Thank you for coming, she said, her small arms wrapped around the woman who had so quickly become a part of their strange, unexpected morning. Miranda smiled, hugging Lily back. You're welcome, sweetie. And thank your dad for being such a good person. After Miranda left, Evan sank back onto the couch, staring at the door she had closed behind her. His mind was racing with possibilities, doubts, and hopes. Could he really take this opportunity? Was he ready for such a dramatic change? But beneath the fear, there was excitement, a spark he hadn't felt in years. He looked at Lily, who was still quietly drawing, her innocence and happiness reminding him why he worked so hard every day. He realized that this opportunity wasn't just for him. It was for her too. A chance for stability, for growth, for a life that wasn't constantly overshadowed by worry and exhaustion. Evan's thoughts kept returning to Miranda's words, I believe in you. The phrase echoed in his mind, comforting and motivating him at the same time. He had spent so many years doubting himself, feeling like life was a constant uphill battle with no breaks. But here was someone who not only saw his worth, but was willing to give him a chance to prove it. To himself and to the world. He spent the rest of the morning thinking, weighing the possibilities, imagining what it would be like to work at Hale Dynamics. He pictured the stability it could bring, the opportunities for Lily, the chance to finally feel like he was moving forward instead of just surviving. And with each passing minute, his hesitation slowly gave way to determination. By the time the sun broke through the clouds, casting warm light into the small apartment, Evan felt a quiet resolve settle over him. This was more than just a job offer. It was a turning point. A chance to step into a new chapter of his life, to take control, and to show both himself and Lily that they were capable of more than mere survival. He didn't know exactly how things would unfold. But for the first time in a long while, Evan felt hope. Real, tangible hope. And deep down, he knew he couldn't pass up the opportunity that had appeared so unexpectedly. On a rainy night, when a simple act of kindness had opened the door to something truly life-changing, Evan woke early that morning, but this time it wasn't out of exhaustion. He woke with a sense of purpose, a nervous excitement fluttering in his chest. Last night, after Miranda had left, he had spent hours thinking, weighing the opportunity she had offered. At first, he had hesitated, unsure if he was ready for such a huge change. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized this was exactly what he and Lily needed, a chance to step into a life that wasn't just about surviving, but thriving. He quietly got up, careful not to wake Lily, who was still sleeping peacefully. For years he had measured his days by the little routines, making breakfast, getting Lily ready for school, working late into the night. But now he felt the possibility of something different, a life where he could focus on more than just getting by. He dressed quickly and went to the kitchen to make coffee, his mind racing with plans and hopes. When Lily woke up, she was still groggy, rubbing her eyes as she looked at her dad. "Morning, Daddy," she mumbled. "Morning, kiddo," Evan said with a smile, kneeling to hug her. "I have something to tell you." Lily tilted her head, curious. "What is it?" Evan took a deep breath. "Remember the woman from last night? The one whose car broke down in the storm?" Lily nodded. "Well," he continued, "she's offered me a job. A real job at her company. It's a big opportunity, and it could mean a better life for both of us." Lily's eyes widened. "A job? Like a really important job?" Evan smiled, ruffling her hair. "Yes, exactly. It's important, and it's hard work, but it's also a chance for us to have a more stable life. No more worrying about bills every day, and we could finally do some of the things we've been dreaming about." Lily's excitement was contagious. "Does this mean we could go on trips and get new school supplies? And maybe a bigger apartment?" Evan laughed softly, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. "It could mean all of that. But first, I need to see if I can do the job. And then, if it works out, Yes, we could start planning for all those things. The next few days were a whirlwind. Evan went to Hell Dynamics for his first day, guided by Miranda herself. The company was nothing like the small apartment or the diner he was used to. The building was massive, the offices sleek, and filled with people moving quickly. But instead of feeling intimidated, Evan felt a strange sense of belonging. He knew he could handle challenges, solve problems, and work hard, and that was exactly what this job required. Miranda introduced him to the team, explaining his role in managing the facilities division. He would handle repairs, oversee maintenance, and help ensure that everything ran smoothly. The employees greeted him warmly, impressed by the CEO's choice to bring in someone with practical skills and a strong work ethic. Evan quickly proved himself. His attention to detail, his calm under pressure, and his ability to fix problems quickly made him an invaluable part of the team, every day. He returned home to Lily with stories about his work, small victories that made him proud, and moments that showed him he was capable of more than he had imagined. Lily, in turn, thrived. Her schoolwork improved because Evan had more time to help her. They started planning small weekend trips, visiting parks, and exploring the city in ways they never had before. For the first time in years, Evan felt like they were truly moving forward. Not just surviving day by day. Miranda, meanwhile, visited occasionally to check on the division. But she wasn't there to supervise in the usual sense. Instead, she seemed genuinely interested in Evan's progress, asking questions, offering encouragement, and sometimes just chatting with Lily. Evan noticed that Miranda had a softer side, a part of her that rarely showed in the boardroom. She laughed easily with Lily, told stories, and seemed to genuinely enjoy spending time with them. One afternoon, as Evan was showing Miranda a repair he had completed on the company's generator, she paused and looked at him seriously. "You know, Evan," she said, "it's rare to meet someone who's as capable and kind as you. You've taken a difficult situation in your life and turned it into something meaningful not just for yourself, but for your daughter and everyone around you." Evan felt his face warm. "I just do what I have to do," he said modestly. "No," Miranda said firmly. "You do more than that. You care. You notice things others ignore. That's why I offered you this opportunity. Not because I wanted to be generous, but because I knew you had the skills and the heart to make it work." The words stuck with him. All his life, Evan had struggled to see his own worth, constantly doubting if he was capable of more than the daily grind. But hearing it from Miranda, someone he respected, gave him a new sense of confidence. Weeks turned into months. Evan's role at Hale Dynamics expanded, and he became a trusted member of the team. He and Miranda developed a friendship built on respect, trust, and shared moments of honesty. She often sought his opinion on practical matters, valuing his perspective in ways few others did. And slowly, Evan realized there was more than friendship forming between them. One evening, after a long day at work, Evan returned home to find Lily waiting with a small drawing she had made of him and Miranda together, smiling under the sun. "I drew this for you," she said proudly, "because you make me happy, and she makes us both happy." Evan felt a lump in his throat. He hugged her tightly. "Thank you, kiddo. This means a lot." Looking around at his small apartment, now filled with warmth, laughter, and the possibility of the future, Evan realized how much their lives had changed. The stormy night, the random car breakdown, the unexpected encounter, it all had led to this new chapter. He thought about how kindness had set everything in motion. One small act of helping someone had turned into a life-altering opportunity, opening doors he had never imagined. And then, one quiet evening, Miranda said something that made Evan pause and truly reflect on everything that had happened. "You know, Evan," she said, her voice gentle, "kindness changes lives. Yours changed mine. I'll never forget that night, and I'm grateful every day that I met you." Evan was speechless. He had never expected such a profound moment to come from a simple act of helping someone. He realized that life had a way of rewarding courage, compassion, and integrity, even when you least expect it. The words echoed in his mind as he looked at Lily, who was laughing over a story from her day at school. For the first time in years, Evan felt completely at peace. His life was not just about survival anymore. It was about growth, opportunity, and love. He had a stable job, a bright future for Lily, and a friendship, maybe something more, with someone who respected and valued him deeply. As he lay in bed that night, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside, Evan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From exhaustion and struggle to hope and opportunity, every step, every act of kindness had led to this moment. He realized that life could be unpredictable and challenging, but it could also be beautiful and transformative. And as he drifted off to sleep, he held Lily close and whispered quietly, "We're going to be okay, kiddo. Better than okay. We're going to be amazing." The night outside was calm now, the storm long gone, but the lessons it had brought, the power of kindness, courage, and human connection, remained. Evan's life had been changed forever, not by chance alone, but by the small, brave actions that set the course for something extraordinary. And in that quiet, warm apartment, father and daughter slept peacefully, ready to embrace the new day and the new life that awaited them.